What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. Then we talking to our guy, Nick Underhill of neworleans.football. Go sign up for neworleans.football. The best Saints site to sign up for all your Saints coverage. The man who exposed the Saints last week is only running motion 1% of the time, the least amount in the NFL. And then, lo and behold, Nick, they come out and they're running 17 out of the 70 plays. Well, do you feel like you had a direct impact on the Saints' game plan?
I do not. But look, it was good to see him do some different things out there and kind of turn it up a little bit. There's been other games where they've used motion similar percentage at times, but I mean, obviously in this one they get up real big. You got your starters out halfway through the fourth quarter, so it's not even the same thing. But look, I mean, it worked for them. They got the 26-yard pass to Mike Thomas on third down on a play with motion. There were a handful of plays where it was effective, a handful of plays where it wasn't. But I mean, a team trying to add more of that to it, there's going to be some growing pains. There was some pre-snap penalties that was kind of directly related to that. They ran the ball in the red zone, which was another thing that they kind of got called out for last week. It was kind of like if you had a complaint about the Saints offense, Pete Carmichael had to play in the playbook this week for your complaint. And it was good to see him kind of take a step in a forward direction on some of this stuff. And, I think it's something that they need to do more of. I think they need to add more of it. I think it needs to be probably, I don't know, you could double it and probably still be fine, but they're at least heading in the right direction now.
What can they do to run the football better? Like if you're breaking down the film and you're watching the tape and you have two running backs that, got pretty good carries and they're still averaging less than 4 yards per carry, like what are some things that you're pointing to why they can't run the football more effectively?
I don't think their guards have been great at blocking. I think it's been an issue all season long. I mean, James Hurst isn't the best player, especially in space. It was an issue last year when they ran to the left side of the field when he was playing left tackle. The yards per carry were way lower going to the left than they were going going to his direction. So that was something that they need to I don't know if there's a fix. I would put Pete in there. Like I would honestly have Andrews Pete starting. I think he's a better run blocker. He gets out in space. That's kind of the thing he does. If you want to be a team that runs the football and kind of throws off of that, which is what they said after this game is what they want to be, I would have my best run blocking guard in the game, and that would be the thing that I would do, and I would have him in there. The other thing is there's this misconception that Alvin Kamara is better on outside runs than inside runs. Inside zone is his thing. Like that's his play. Like he's way better on those. Getting out to the edges hasn't been his thing in a few years. Like, so running him up the middle is actually the thing you want to be doing more of. I thought he had a handful of really good runs on those this week, but that's something I would lean into a little bit more. So there's still a lot of things that I think they can do better. I think simply having some play action could help open some stuff up too. Like it's just, you can't run 4 play action plays in an NFL game. That's just not a feasible amount. So while we're celebrating the use of motion, there's still, in 1982 in play action attempts, and that's something that's got to change a little bit. So there's a lot of stuff that I think they can do better on offense for sure.
I mean, so that's my question though, Nick. How are they going to tell me that they want to run the ball instead of the pass when they run less play action than anybody in the league? Like that feels a little disingenuous.
I mean, that was the thing I was screaming about all last year. They wanted to be a power running team. They never got a power running back. They didn't use any play action. And then they couldn't figure out why their offense didn't work. Well, because the identity that you tried to build upon, you didn't have the players for or the play calls for, and it never added up. So there's still like a little bit of discombobulation between what they're saying and what they're doing. But I'm not a buyer yet either. Like, so last year, I think we had similar complaints, and we're screaming about the same stuff. They go and they play Vegas, or Vegas comes here, they play them. They shut them out 24-0. Everybody's dropping memes. Like they got Pete Carmichael on, the Halloween, the Spirit Halloween meme, like, Pete's in his bag, all this stuff. Like, and then the next week it's just back to being ass. Like, so it's just, you can't celebrate this too much yet. Like there has to be a consistency to it. I kind of believe a little bit more this year that they're going to figure things out a little bit more, just because I feel like they have way too many good players. And it's just kind of like, if you just get out of the way a little bit, I think this team can win 7 games with terrible play calling, just based on the players they have and just using some common sense stuff. Like now, if you actually become a good play caller, I think the ceiling's a lot higher. So we'll see, but I'm not like clapping my hands about what they did yet because I need to see it like 2 or 3 more times before I'm gonna like let the gas off on my worries about this offense.
Well, and it's you mentioned too many good players. I mean, I agree with you. You have a healthy, productive Mike Thomas back there, Carbinos. But I want to talk about Thomas because you look up now and been completely healthy, right? No questions therein. And he's been uber consistent. 4 for 65 on Sunday. Before that, 4 for 53, 6 for 50, 7 for 55, 5 for 61. How does this make you feel about Mike Thomas going forward into the last 3 quarters of the season?
Yeah, what's he on pace for with that? Like something like 87 catches? Like that's a good number
Let's see.
for
Yeah,
a guy.
26, 5. Yeah.
So yeah, so 85, 86, somewhere in there. That's a really good place to be for a guy, kind of his age too. Like the thing I keep saying, like if you look at like 29 and you fast forward 4 years, like this is kind of what you probably would see. Like if there was no mistake, like it's just a natural aging process. It seems like he's still kind of the same type of player. Obviously, I think a little bit slower, maybe a little less explosive, maybe a little less yards after the catch, just a little bit less of everything, which is what's going to happen to a guy when he's in his 30s. Like it's just going to back off a little bit, but he is still extremely, extremely productive. I actually feel like they could do more with him. Like I feel like he could be getting the ball a little bit more than he is. A couple of those games, like the numbers end up being good, but it felt quiet.
Yeah.
Packers game being one in particular, really nothing early on. James comes in, they kind of get him going a little bit, but I think he could be doing a little bit more. But yeah, I think he's back. Look, if there's an injury, there's an injury. That's impossible to predict. But like the play, there's no question about it. He's a highly productive player. I still think he's one of the best players on this team. I think he's somebody that they should, like I said, they should just be getting the ball to him more. The fact I don't think he has a touchdown yet. Like that's crazy to me. Like crazy. I don't know how Mike Thomas isn't your primary red zone weapon right now. I don't know how you haven't gotten him in the end zone at all, but I think he looks great. I mean, and I like his attitude too. I think that's maybe the best thing about him right now is that he seems a little bit more like a team guy. Not that he wasn't a team guy before, but it just feels like he understands his position, his role. It seems like he's more vocal in the locker room. He talked after the last game to the team. Like that's stuff that Mike Thomas wasn't doing early in his career. So there's just a little bit of perspective, a recognition that like, hey, Drew's not here. Sean's not here. Teron Armstead's not here. Zach Streif's not here. Like there's a little bit of a void, and he stepped into it, which, I think it just speaks to the maturation of him. And he probably gained a lot of perspective over the last few years, kind of going through the stuff he went through. So I think it's a different Mike off the field, same Mike on the field.
Going over to the other side of the football, because, I mean, the defense has been so much fun to watch. And even when you're out Marcus May, Jordan Howden comes in, and I was really impressed with him. And, like, I was pretty critical of Marcus May's play to the point when, he had to be out. And Jordan Howden looks like he is taking that position, and it's going to be tough to take him off the field.
Yeah, I do think May's going to come and slot back in, but Howden has been awesome. Like he has been a revelation, and it's funny because he was kind of like the one guy in that draft class that nobody was talking about coming out of it. It's like, oh yeah, and they got the safety. He's great. Like he really looks like someone that should be out there playing more. I think he's going to remain the top guy in the dime package. But yeah, I agree with you. Like he's making plays. He's out there. He's making a difference. When he was injured, like you felt the absence drastically. He comes back. They're making plays again. Yeah. The fact that they trust him to play all over the field, like they'll have him single high, too high, down in the box. Like he's a playmaker, and I think he's someone that's going to develop and kind of potentially be someone that's a huge part of this defense down the road. But the starting spot has been incredible, and he created that one pick pretty much, and he's playing with a broken hand, and you couldn't really notice that either, or a broken finger rather. So I mean, he's been incredible. I think he's maybe like one of the steals of that draft class for sure.
We should have started here because it's what started everything on Sunday, but this was the Carl Granderson game. He was just a constant menace, and a time where the Saints had gone something like 7 or 8 quarters without a touchdown. He finds a way to create a defensive touchdown, opens up the floodgates. Of course, Granderson, people were ready to write him off because he's gotten paid, had a couple quiet games, now back in a big way. Because look, once you get paid, expectation rockets, right? So before any time Granderson's productive, it's like, okay, yeah, that's cool, man, right on. It felt like Lanyap. Now it feels like it's the expectation. Do you think it's sustainable? Like, what's your number you need him to have? Do you think he has 10 sacks by year's end?
Man, 10 sacks would be amazing. Like he he had 5.5. I think 5.5 is the career high. So if he doubles that's amazing. That's an amazing number. Look, I thought it was really smart to pay him. I thought it was a good decision, and I think he's going to keep proving that. But they gave him like $12 million. They got ahead of it. Like, it's kind of hedging your bet a little bit on what he's going to be, and if he does hit that 10, like he's underpaid immediately. But I think we've seen him just keep growing and getting better and getting better and getting better, and that's kind of been interesting to watch. Like, to really just see that clear progression to where like he wasn't an every down player. He has to gain all the weight. He has to learn how to play the run. He learns how to play the run. The sack production starts coming. He puts Marcus Davenport on the bench. Next year, he's the starter. He gets paid, all this stuff. But he has to be kind of this for them to be what they want to be on defense. They made a huge, huge bet, like kind of not bringing in another defensive end. I still worry that that's there's not enough depth there. But if he's playing like this, it takes some of the edge off it a little bit. Like, he has to be that much better just because now you don't have Peyton Turner. There's no backup on Peyton Turner. And I don't know that you were ever counting on Peyton Turner to do anything because he's never done anything in his career, but there's no fail safe at all behind him. And then the next guy in that rotation, it's a big drop off in talent. So your top two guys got to be doing a lot. Cam only has 1 sack to this point. It's interesting because his pressure numbers are better than they were last year at this point, and he's getting double teamed on 14% of their snaps right now, which is the highest total in 4 years. So Cam's production has dipped a little bit. So it's on Carl to kind of have to do the heavy lifting and do all this stuff. And yeah, he has to be making a difference for them to make plays. And if they are, you get these turnovers and you get these picks. They already tied with their interception total from last year. Yeah. So, I mean, that starts up front. And that's a lot of that is because Carl's been knocking on the door quite a bit.
All right, after 5 games, let's reset the NFC South. Nick, where are the teams compared to where maybe you had them in the preseason kind of coming in?
So I'm surprised that Carolina's as bad as they are. I'm surprised that Tampa's been what they are. I think the Saints are kind of right around what I would expect them to be. And, it's hard because it's early in the season. It's 4 games. Last year was terrible. And there's kind of residual criticism from last year spilling into this season, as there should be. Like, this offense looks bad, and it's right back to the panic from last year. Like, oh my God, they didn't figure anything out. It's the same stuff. Pete Carmichael can't do this, yada, yada, yada. But then you kind of take a step back, and it's like, all right, they've played 5 games. Derek Carr got hurt in 1. He has an injured AC joint in another. Alvin Kamara missed 3 games. Like, if you said all this stuff before they ever played a game and said their record is going to be where it is coming into this, you'd probably be like, okay, that's not that bad. They had 3 road games already. 4th one next week. If they win that, I think they're sitting in a pretty strong position going into the rest of the season. So I think this game was a little bit of perspective, but I think you got to be cautiously optimistic because, like, again, last year wasn't that far away and there's still the same people there. So you could slip right back into that. But I do think, like, with a little bit of perspective, things aren't as terrible as they seemed a week ago.
Yeah. It's really just that 17-0 lead that looms large. But, I mean, you're right. You forget about that. I mean, look, on the road, it's Houston. Big week coming up. Road Houston, home Jags. If you 2-0 that, I mean, within 5 days, suddenly the world is your oyster. Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the 2 guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.